Hi there, welcome to Apple Fritter Bread, one of the most delicious things that you can make during apple season. I have two apples. I went with a Honeycrisp today, and I want to give them a really fine dice. And as you can see, I did peel them, so no peels here. And to those, I'm going to do 2 teaspoons of my sugar and half a teaspoon of my apple pie spice. Now I'm going to toss those and set them aside. For your dry ingredients, I have 2 cups all-purpose flour. I'm going to do 2 teaspoons baking powder. I'm going to do 1/2 teaspoon kosher salt. And then I'm going to do 2 teaspoons of my apple pie spice. I'm going to whisk to combine that and set it aside. For the swirl, I have 1/2 cup brown sugar, and to that I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. Use your Saigon cinnamon here. You really want this to have that cinnamony punch. I'm going to make sure that's well combined, and I'm going to set that aside. So our next step is getting our batter done. I have 1 stick of butter melted, and to that I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of brown sugar and a 1/2 cup of pure cane sugar. And I want to whisk that for a couple of minutes, just really help start that sugar to dissolve. So it's going to be time to go in the oven here soon. So I have my oven on 350, I have my loaf pan ready. I did do some parchment paper here. I'm not really familiar with that loaf pan, and it does make it easier to pull out. Into my butter sugar mixture, I'm going to do 2 teaspoons of pure vanilla, and then I have 3 eggs. I'm going to whisk them one at a time, and I'm going to whisk well between each one. And then I have 1/2 cup sour cream and 1/4 cup milk. So I'm going to whisk to combine all of this, and then this is our wet, and now we can start building our batter. So now that we have all of our parts ready into our wet, we're going to add our dry. We're going to mix just the 2 combined. Don't overmix it. And then we're just going to fold in those apples. So into your loaf pan, 1/2 of your batter. Spread that out. Now sprinkle 1/2 of your cinnamon sugar down. Top with the rest of your batter. So I'm going to spread that across. Top with the other 1/2 of your sugar. Now take a knife or a chopstick and just do a few swirls or figure 8s in there. We're going to go into that oven at 350 for about 40 to 50 minutes. We'll start checking in about 35 minutes. So after you've done the toothpick test and you know your bread's done, let it sit about 10 minutes in the loaf pan to cool, and then we're going to lift it up out of there onto a wire rack. Remove, if you use parchment paper, remove the parchment paper and let it cool completely, and then we'll come back and put the icing on it. So now that our bread is cool, we're going to make this beautiful glaze for it. I have 3/4 of a cup of powdered sugar. I'm going to add a teaspoon of vanilla, and then I'm going to add some milk. Now I'm going to start with a teaspoon, and I'm going to add a teaspoon at a time until it becomes the consistency that I'm looking for. And it can easily go too thin on you, so start with a teaspoon and work your way up. Okay, so I have it where it is thick but pourable. So I like to put my bread on a piece of parchment paper, and that way whatever glaze ends up on the parchment paper doesn't make a mess. So now I'm just going to drizzle this over this gorgeous bread. This is the kind of bread that you can just have a morning cup of coffee with, and it's just such a beautiful treat, especially during apple season. So I'm just going to take off a corner over here. Just look at that beautiful bread. Little pieces of apple. It's cinnamony, it's sweet. There's apples, there's softness, there's crunch. This is just an amazing bread that you can make this time of year. I'm going to keep eating mine, and I'll see y'all later. Bye.